I can't get my hair to sit straight today. It'll do. So, I wanted to make this video just to talk about some of the things that I didn't get to mention in my recent video of Brunei. And if you haven't watched my previous vlog on that, basically, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I thought people were really nice to you. They were really helpful. Obviously as well, it's quite calm. It's quite chill. Probably from the fact that, you know, it's a heavily Muslim country. You know, that's what they are. Like, I'm not going to change them for that. But I think there's maybe a few things that I just kind of want to be brutally honest about. What other influencers have said about Brunei and the boring thing. Like the fact that it's the most boring place on earth, which I vehemently disagree with. But I can also see why it might be boring to some people. So I arrived in Brunei in, when was it? June. It was in June. I flew with Royal Brunei Airlines. I actually did a vlog on that. You can see that here. It was a good flight. It was 8.5 hours. It was incredibly bumpy. It was on a 787, which at the time was probably not the most favourite plane to be on at that time, because I think the Air India accident was round about that time. And by the way, I wasn't sponsored by Royal Brunei, just FYI, and I wasn't paid by the government to say nice things about it. Which a lot of people on this channel kind of think, especially the videos that do well, especially the Dubai one, where they're like,
oh yeah, he's been paid to say that.
Do you think a channel of about less than 1,000 subscribers that any tourism board is going to be remotely interested? Have a think about that. This is not how YouTube works. Anyway, after 8.5 hours, you're in the capital city that is Bandar Seri Begawan. That is not an easy thing to say, especially when people just refer to the country as Brunei. Well, Brunei used to be an empire, so like the Bruneian Empire, and it's subsequently Borneo then got split up into 3 countries, etc, etc. And Brunei now has the smallest amount of land on the island, but it only exclusively has land on the island. And it is also oil rich, so that's kind of how they're a thing. When I landed at Brunei, quite a lot of people that were on that flight were flying from London, and then it stopped in Dubai, and then it went on to Brunei, and then everybody connected to their next destinations. And a lot of British people got on this flight and connected to go to Australia, because there was a flight going to Melbourne round about that time, which I was like, they're insane. They were already on a 7-hour flight to Dubai, and then, well, actually it was longer because of the 12-day war thing, and then on an 8.5-hour flight from Dubai to Brunei, and then now they're going to get on another 8-hour flight towards Australia, all in one go. No one's done a vlog on it. Now, I should mention that trying to get into Brunei is easy, but there's a bit of a step that you've got to do. In fact, there's a few steps you have to do. My hair's annoying me. I need to get a cut. So if you want to enter Brunei, depending on your nationality, of course, I think everybody has to do this regardless, but I certainly had to do it. You need to fill out an e-arrival card. Now, pretty much every influencer will tell you this, but you have to apply for it online. It's really easy, but the thing is, they just ask for everything. Like, where do you live, your full name, your passport, name as per your passport. They also ask you as well, which I thought was a bit weird. They wanted to know what kind of cash you were bringing into the country. So for example, if you had Bruneian dollars, you had to declare how much of it you had. But if you were on a connection, you also had to claim that money as well, or declare that money as well. So you could have Australian dollars in there, you could have Singaporean dollars, you could have dirhams and things like that. So you kind of have to do that, and then you have to then give the details of the flight that you came in from, like the actual flight code. You've got to give it that. You then have to say, when are you leaving, where are you going after you've left, all that kind of stuff. I was a bit worried as well when I submitted the form and I didn't get a code for it. And I didn't get an email confirmation. I got nothing. And I was a bit like, how do I show them this? Anyway, turns out it's the exact same process as Taiwan do. So when I entered Taiwan, when was that? Last year. I had to submit an arrival card. When I submitted it, I literally only got a screen on my browser, which basically said, yep, you've submitted your application, and that's it. I got nothing. Turns out that when I arrived in Taiwan, they had the information and they just stamped my passport. This is the exact same thing that's in Brunei, but what they do also ask you to do is that you need to fill out a declaration form, like a health declaration form, which most countries do anyway. So when I went up to the woman, and I kind of had to really swiftly sign up to the Wi-Fi, because my data package, which I purchased here in UAE, normally it works everywhere except Brunei. And I was just like, okay, that's not ideal, because I had to figure out how to get taxis, I had to do all that sort of stuff, which I'll talk about in a second. So anyway, I had to sort of hurriedly get on the Wi-Fi, get onto the e-arrival card website, declaration form PDF, which by the way, they do email you that. Had them all together, and I went up to the counter to a woman who, by the way, I've never had an experience before where I've went to an immigration post where I've actually been smiled at. Didn't ask about my e-arrival card, didn't ask about the health declaration form, didn't even ask for my ID or anything like that, except my passport, they need that, but like my residence, because I had to tell them that I was a foreign resident, and I got stamped. So from there, we then go out into the taxi rank, and by the way, I have to say, transportation in Brunei is not great. It's really difficult. I spoke to my taxi driver about this because he was saying that even driving in Brunei, there's a lot of like fines and rules. So, you know, driving in and around there is probably a bit difficult. I was lucky to see him though, because he was actually waiting outside the airport. There's like a group of taxis who wait, but you're technically meant to go up to a kiosk and like you get like a list of places where you're meant to go, and they all have prices on them. So there's no negotiation that happens. It's just you agree on that price and then you go to your destination. But the person that I met, he was a really nice guy. He was kind enough to take me in his cab, and because I think everybody else was kind of like, you know, whatever, and everyone was meeting somebody. People who were getting off at Brunei were going home to Brunei. They were Bruneians who were either in London or they were in Dubai, but this was like a couple of taxis who were like, they knew the London flight was coming in, so maybe people need taxis. As and when you travel into Brunei, like, you'll get a feeling of the place, like even late at night, like it's kind of, people are still out and about, but they're not like out. There's no nightlife in Brunei as such. And I'm not going to say the reason for that is because of drinking culture, like, because there's no alcohol, you can't buy it there. You can bring it in, but you have to declare it. That was another thing. You could technically bring alcohol into Brunei, but you need to declare it. You know, you're going to drink it in your private property or hotel room or whatever. Now, in terms of accommodation, I deliberately chose a hotel that is frequently used by a lot of travelers who are stopping by Brunei, the Radisson Hotel in Bandar Seri Begawan. The only reason why this is really popular and it's a very good option is because it is smack bang in the middle of the city. Right across the road from it is the Royal Regalia Museum. You're not too far away from the markets as well. The port areas where you can get a boat to Kampong Ayer. The mosque isn't too far away as well. Well, the main gold mosque, not the massive one that's up towards the airport. It's really convenient for, you know, getting all your city stuff done. But with that convenience, there's also other slightly inconvenienced parts to it as well. Like, for example, like the Gadong night market, which is in the episode. I just had to get like a taxi or a bus. I was lucky to have had that as a complimentary service from the hotel. You know, it's not close by, you can't really walk to it. You know, it's a bit away, so you definitely need a taxi. And speaking of taxis, there's literally only about 40 of them in the whole country.
How do you get a ride?
There is an app, it's like their version of Uber, and it's called Dart. And I tried to use this, but it just for some reason wasn't working for me. Even he said, like, Dart doesn't always work. So what happens is you end up sort of, the taxi drivers sort of like have their own thing. So it's like they give you your business card, and like whenever you're in Brunei, you just call them up. I have this guy's number, and like if I'm ever back in Brunei, I'm calling him. And he's also suggested that if I'm back in Brunei, he can actually drive me around the country. Like, for example, I didn't get to see, I really kind of went to Brunei just for this one reason alone. Jeradon Park Amphitheatre, because the amphitheatre is where Michael Jackson had a concert, a royal concert, just for the Sultan of Brunei and the people of Brunei. So it was an open air concert. How mad is that? But I really wanted to go see it. So let's talk quickly about pretty much the elephant in the room when it comes to Brunei as a country, because I would like to say that my trip was really memorable. Like, I still tell people about it to this day, even though it was a day and it wasn't the longest trip in the world. It still left a nice impression on me. Like, you know, everybody's chill. It was just an all-round good experience. Like, people put a smile on my face, and that's all really what I want. Malaysia didn't really give me that impression. Malaysia was fun, but it wasn't as memorable as Brunei, which is very weird in a very strange way, because everybody says it's boring as I can see that, but it really does depend on what you say is boring. Like, I'm definitely one of those people that kind of sees the excitement in boring stuff. I've been told that people who have went to Brunei have basically said that they have like cried out of boredom because there's nothing to do. People have also said that like you have to know people to really understand what Brunei is all about. And I even found a Reddit page and it's literally just for Brunei, who actually talk about their country. And they're like that they've got friends that come over to Brunei, and it's like they kind of felt slightly embarrassed a little bit, that the fact that it was like they just get up, they go to the market, you know, they kind of chill for the day, they go to the restaurant or they go to get an ice cream, and then they just, you know, sit in the car watching the sunset, and then that's like pretty much a normal day in Brunei. And I felt really bad for them, because it was kind of like, why did somebody have to go to Reddit to basically say, you know, oh, like, is that not just really boring? Like, you know, are people just going to see me like that? And I'm like, but everybody who commented being like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way we are. Like, you know, if you want to make it more interesting, you know, that's up to you to do that. But, you know, that's just the way it is. And I am in no position to basically say to them, like, your country's boring. Like, you're this and that. You don't have this, you can't get alcohol and all that sort of stuff. I am the last person they would ever listen to as to giving advice on what fun looks like. Like, I'm like talking about my fridge magnet fiasco, like trying to even find one of them is a fun activity for me. But yeah, I can see why people might see Brunei as boring, because I think like maybe the Museum of World Regalia, it's kind of all about the Sultan, which is fine. All countries have that. Like, I mean, Buckingham Palace, for example, like is one of them. And, you know, it's all very materialistic things. But, you know what? It's got a bit of character. I think people also as well, like, they also rate fun with alcohol. Like, I mean, I drink alcohol, like, and that's fine. And I use that in fun environments. And, you know, I sometimes find when I drink alcohol that I find that the atmosphere is a little bit more fun if I drink alcohol, which is fine, but that's just my opinion. But I can also have fun without it. And that's not because I also right now live in a Muslim country, but I can go to another country and where they don't drink and still enjoy the atmosphere, because that's how it works. Like, some people are just like, yeah, but you need to have fun with alcohol, or you need to have a theme park and all that sort of stuff. Cool. Just go to somewhere where that exists. I just think there's a lot of content on social media at the moment. Someone said that it was boring and dull, and that's the way it's become. Would I go back? Yeah, I would. Like, if I really had to, I would. But I also feel like I need to go back because I forgot to do some things. And that was, I needed to try ambuyat. And yeah, I really regret this. I'm not being theatrical. That was just, I should have done that. It was genuinely something I wanted to do, was to have ambuyat. It's like this gooey texture stuff, and you eat it with chopsticks, and you wrap it up and then you swallow it. You don't chew this thing, which by the way is a very difficult concept for me. Apparently it's really nice, and it's like, I would also definitely use a tour guide the second time round. Like, I would use a taxi driver, like my friend who gave me his phone number. I would definitely call him again to go around Brunei, and I would probably maybe spend more than a day there, because Brunei is actually a bigger country than you think, and I think there's more to see. Like Jerodong, there's loads of other places to see in Brunei. It's not just Bandar Seri Begawan, which I think that's where a lot of people kind of see it for the gold aspect, and it's like they don't get to see the bigger part of the country. All in all, I would definitely go back. And if you have never been to Brunei before, and if you want to see what it's like, I recommend it to you. I think you should give it a try. I think it's really interesting. But if you also want to see Brunei in a nutshell, do make sure that you watch my video on Brunei. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you somewhere new.